Hello everyone, my name is Joshua. This is the 43rd video of my video journal series. Today's date is Monday, the 23rd of March 2026. And something I wanted to share with you today is my nostalgia or perspectives of the year 2012. Now I'm a bit nostalgic for the year 2012. It was the year that I turned 6 years old. I was in kindergarten. I got my first ever video game console, which was the Nintendo DSi XL in the burgundy color. And, it was the year of the London 2012 Olympics, the 2012 US presidential election. Most people call it the last, quote unquote, normal US presidential election between Obama and Romney. And, everyone thought the world was going to end in the year 2012 because of some Mayan prediction, which ultimately didn't happen. But, I think it's easy to look back on the year as nostalgic, and I certainly do. But I think at the same time, you know, some of that nostalgia plays into how we perceived certain things like internet memes and pop culture, for instance. We look at the memes of the year 2012, back when memes like Velociraptor, what other memes were there back then? I'm not very good with my memeology, sorry, but you look back at all those late 2000s, early 2010s memes like Bad Luck Brian. I know that's like more 2000s-ish, but it was still popular in 2012. Memes had like an extended sort of lifespan back then. Rage Face, all those sorts of memes. Um, Social media was still within its infancy. I mean, the free sites were pretty much just like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, which were all founded in the 2000s, but I guess they started gaining popularity in 2012 and the early 2010s. I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't until 2013 before Snapchat came into existence, and I'm pretty sure Instagram was like 2011-ish, but it was still within its infancy, if you know what I mean. Everyone still carried around like BlackBerry phones. The iPhone was still within its infancy, and I guess technology was a lot less integrated within our lives. We didn't. Most people, I guess, didn't really have a social media account or even a mobile phone on them, which is insane to think that now. But technology was used as an escape back in the year 2012, but now we're trying to escape from technology here in 2026. But I have a lot of fond memories of it. But it's easy to look through history through rose-tinted glasses, and there was certainly good and bad in the year 2012. There's been good and bad in the year 2026. Mostly, a lot more problems, but I do see small acts of kindness out on the streets. Some people compliment what I'm wearing, and you see someone helping out another person, or you go to, I guess, your local KFC and the guy there is really nice, or the person serving you is really nice, which small acts of kindness. I think is still evident throughout all these years. But I feel like if prompted, I guess, the opportunity or question, would you go back to the year 2012? I'll say in some aspects, maybe from a observer lens, but to fully, I guess, travel back to that year and I guess restart my life from 2012, I wouldn't really do it. So much has changed. I've learned a lot. And I'm pretty sure for my older audience, some people may say yes, depending on which, I guess, generational cohort you're part of. If you're maybe like part of Gen Z, maybe you'll say yes. Millennials, yes. Gen X, I don't really know. And given like the pop culture of that time, Gangnam Style, I remember doing the Gangnam Style dance, and I'm pretty sure my 5th or 6th birthday would have been 2011 or 2012 when the song came out. And I'm willing to bet hard money that Gangnam Style will eventually become popular again. And everyone will be doing the Gangnam Style dance. Just like the Macarena here in 2026, It'll eventually become full circle. But, and, you have like a bunch of great movies, One movie I watched a lot around that time was Wreck-It Ralph. That was a movie that came out in 2012, and that was pretty good. The sequel, not so much, but the original Wreck-It Ralph movie was pretty good. Weird to think that the sequel is like 10 years old now. Man, I feel so old watching that in theaters and going like, It was okay. Actually, I'm pretty sure. No, the sequel was in 2018. Sorry, but it's nearly been a decade. Whatever. But yeah, and looking back at the video games of the time, um, the songs, movies, television shows, um, Breaking Bad, I think ended in year 2012, or Breaking Bad was still popular around back then. It is now, but back then it was, you know, hugely popular. Um, Better Call Saul didn't begin until 2015, but Breaking Bad, yeah. Um, you still had like shows like was House MD still running around that time? I'm not fully certain, but yet again, as I said, it's easy to look through rose-tinted glasses. So I'm just checking the mirror reflection to see if my camera's still recording because it's around 3% battery. So I might have to hurry this thing a little bit up if it hasn't completely died on me. Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to check if it has battery. You know what? Maybe I'll just take a little break just to see if it has some battery. All right, yes, it does. All right, my camera has a little bit of battery, so I gotta really, I guess, wrap this thing up before it dies out on me. Sorry about this. I should have charged my phone beforehand, but yeah, I guess to really wrap this up, look, I have a lot of nostalgia for the year 2012, but given how much medicine and technology has improved, you can easily look back on, culture from that time, like fast food promotions, for instance. Just seeing all those nostalgic advertisements. Back when a Big Mac was around, I'm pretty sure around $3. Now it's like $6.50 here in 2026, and when the median house price, national average of house prices in Australia was $400,000, I believe, but now it's like well over $1 million. And here in Sydney, it's like you have to be a millionaire to afford a house, unfortunately. But you know, I guess that's just how society has shifted over time. Julia Gillard was prime minister back in 2012. I guess the major political scandal that year was Rudder v. Gillard, the whole leadership spill thing. But now here in 2026, oh boy. Um, but amongst all the simplicity, how I guess detached from technology we were, there were certainly problems, in the year 2012. You have war, famine, disease, and poverty, and all that. And in some ways, some of those issues have been somewhat alleviated, but here in 2026, we still got to deal with those issues. We still got to tackle these major problems. And it makes me wonder, would the year 2026 be, I guess, viewed in a nostalgic light or in a more favorable manner than it is now? Like in the year 2046, will people look back on 2026 as quote unquote nostalgic? Which is hard to tell, I feel like nostalgia really kicks in after 20 years, and so I'm just checking to see if my phone's still recording because it's dimly lit, so that just means it's low battery. But yeah, it's just you know, I guess how nostalgia shifts over time. I really like just seeing, I guess, old TV interviews of like, Barack Obama, for instance. People, you know, Vox Pop star being asked, "What's your opinions on Obama?" And people are like, "Oh, he's a good president and all, but he hasn't done enough on the economy, for instance." I love just seeing those videos from like 2012 because it gives like, I guess, insights towards how people perceive different issues back then. If you ask people now opinions on Obama, they say, "Oh, he's a great president. In my view, he was a good president." But you know, as much as I view him as a great president, you look at the people being quizzed back in 2012. I remember just watching a video on this, like a actual video that archived footage of the year 2012, people being asked on their opinions on Obama, and most of it was pretty harsh and just like critical of the economic recovery after the GFC. And I guess that's just how much society's changed, how opinions and perspectives change over time, especially now since we got that guy in the Oval Office here in 2026. But I guess just how society changes and evolves, and I can't really predict how society will change and evolve in 20 years time from now on. And so I'm just keep on looking. I just really wish I can, wrap this thing up before my phone dies. But I swear the next video entry will be a lot more detailed. I'm trying to keep the weekday ones to, I guess, around 10 minutes. So then I don't be wasting too much time on your watching habits. But anyway, I guess to wrap it up, 2012, great year for me, nostalgic year, but that's just how time really works. And I guess that's how history works. And there'll be things I remember from the year 2012, things I look back on, but I guess, nothing's stopping me from watching a movie like Wreck-It Ralph again. But anyway, catch you all next time and see you all later. Bye. Take care. Have a great one.